think it gives you one interpretive lens of looking at Job's response to the whirlwind. It's called Job interrupts God, as if God's whirlwind speech wasn't done, and Job jumps in with his response, 42, 1-6 that we see. The Common English translations wouldn't seem to give that title justice, would they? Let's look at a couple. Like I said, there are a couple questions that arise from the Hebrew, and neither of which have very definitive answers. The Hebrew in 42:6 especially is particularly vague and inconclusive. But the first one we already covered a little bit, shows that since there's no direct object to the first verb, I reject or I despise, who or what is Job rejecting? What does Job despise? The first option is what English translators have thought. They use the reflexive form of the verb, which the syntax of the entire sentence could show the verb forms. I won't get into detail, but there is some Hebrew evidence that it could be a reflexive use of the verb. I don't think that quite buys it, but there is some there. The next one we already talked about. Job is rejecting the materials of dust and ashes, the symbols of mourning, in which case the first verb, I despise, would be a modifier of the second verb. I despise and am sorry about, or I reject, or I change my mind, basically, for using these symbols of mourning.
In that case, you don't even give the first verb its own direct objects.
Yes.
Instead, you make the two verbs into almost one single idea. The way I would say, I state and proclaim.
Yes.
This and that and that. Where this and that is an object of both state and proclaim, and you use two verbs to get nuances and meaning. Yeah, good.
The last one is the most troubling, and it's one that neither Richard or I can argue with much candor, but I think it's one we need to talk about a little bit. The last option is not a reflexive use of the noun, but putting a second person pronoun onto it. So instead of I despise myself, I reject myself, it's I despise you, pointing to God. So it is possible in the Hebrew syntax that Job is not pointing inward, not reflexively speaking, but speaking outward towards God, towards this big bully that's been throwing him around in the storm and has been belittling him, not just through his suffering, but in the speech in which he has come and shown Job just how pathetic he is as a mere human being. It's a very troubling translation and interpretation, but it is one that the Hebrew syntax could support here.
And some have argued for it.
And some have argued for it, and people who have, and it has been a source of hope for folks who have had very difficult trials in their own lives.
And I forgot I did that.
Go ahead.
I got it from Jim. He's done with it.
Oh, I see.
Here's the thing: is this the one that goes with this? Yeah.
It's not clear in the original
So here's the USB part.
Hebrew text.
What's the
I think
USB
if Richard
thing
and I
that's in
pick
there?
one, we both pick the
Is that
middle
his
one,
jump
just
drive?
from our.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say for you, Richard? I think
For all
from
we're
our
missing is the actual
conversations and
controller.
I think it's clear that Job is showing a change of heart, a change
Is
of
it in a
mind.
laptop bag or something somewhere?
I think I saw this one first.
Okay.
And I looked in those laptops, and it wasn't there.
It's got to be like in one of the carts or something like that. Cause
Yeah.
it's used, no one would have stolen it
Certainly.
without the USB.
I checked that one, I checked the cart, that where Jim lives. I checked that cart.
And it's not my cart.
That's a powerful
check
way
the
of
cart that was in
thinking
the-
about that last option.
Yeah.
No, I think that's
Why is there a
that's
cart
right
there?
on.
And to see that important verses line up with each other. Do you remember that important verse we talked about? I know that my Redeemer liveth. Those who like to say that Job rejects God, that his Redeemer is the one who is going to slay God. See that? I mean, I'm just saying they line up. I'm not saying I adopt that reading, But if the Redeemer liveth,
Yeah,
and
we
you've got
need
this
to, like,
vengeful
after
God, then the
everything's
Redeemer
over
is
today,
going to be
kinda
the one
scour
who
the church and see if I can find
does
it,
away
'cause
with
this
that
thing's like
vengeful
50
God.
bucks every
A
time.
couple more hands, Sam?
And for it to only be a couple weeks old is really irritating.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes.
it does, and that's one reason why Richard and I do not aren't in favor of this last one, because how the rest of the book plays out, and especially how the epilogue plays out, it doesn't seem to support. I mean, God will soon say to his friends, "You have not spoken rightly of me, as my servant Job has," which would indicate that Job didn't just point his finger at God and said, "Shame on you." People who have argued for this form of translation that I despise you are also folks that take Job not as a one unified story, but as a very fragmented story, and so they would see
Okay.
the speeches going all the way through 42 as a unified whole, and the prologue and the epilogue as a
I always get
previous
confused.
story. So in that
All the ones that are polar.
interpretive line,
the
it
polar-
would be
if you look at
fitting
it
to
closely,
say that,
Yeah.
given the
There's a little
context,
pin
but not
and a
if you look
circle.
at the book as we have it today in front of us. Very
I think I
right.
pulled these out of the camera.
And on that view,
before, that's
the
why I
epilogue
thought it
Well,
won't
was-
start
They
until
do work,
42:7.
but they get all
On
grainy.
that view, right?
Oh,
They're
So these are
separated.
high definition.
Well, the epilogue
cards.
does begin at
Okay.
42.
These are high
right.
definition
But
cards.
this, I mean,
Okay.
in,
They have, they're
some
high
people
speed,
claim
really,
this is the
'cause
last
this
verse
is
of
4
the,
speed, that one's a 4,
Mhm.
that one's a 4.
forms of the
These are
story
both
of
10.
Job.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead.
Okay. I'm
And
not
that
gonna
one
make
needs
that mistake again.
7 needs 6 or above
Oh,
to run properly.
I see what you're saying.
It'll work, but it won't record at the highest definition,
Okay.
which is probably fine for what we're using it for.
Yeah.
That sanctuary card looked like it was about half full too, right? Did we clear that off every week?
Thought I cleared that off, but I'll clear it off today.
Because it said there was only an hour and 40 minutes left on it.
Oh my goodness. I'll clear that off.
Okay.
ASAP.
Thanks.
No problem.
You know where she put the Jimmy John orders?
I don't. I think maybe in that yellow tower.
So I need to add mine. My kids are going to be here too, so I'm going to order them
cool.
stuff too.
Awesome.
What is that?
I have absolutely no idea.
Good.
I like that.
Beautiful. Graduate level English seminar, what we'll all say is that poetry is multivalent. That means, and this is poetry, and that means it can have several meanings at once. And then the thing to come back and say, and you already did this, is to say, Jim's good question to be in a class, yes, but what is the last word of Job? So it's absolutely good to recognize that there are multiple levels of meaning, some of which may be at some degree of tension with each other. But what's the last word? What's the final word that comes out of it? Is it going to be one where Job is strutting out, restored with God, or there's still enmity between them? And you tended, right at the end there, and I think I'm with you on this, you tended to say the enmity is there, but it's a minor chord and not a major. And that's where we get to that question of what is the last word, even though I certainly agree you can have multiple meanings.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe?
Okay.
At what?
Retract.
Retract.
I haven't. Oh, I need to turn these back up.
The second verb I think could be
We can
has
hear them
more of
talk.
a
Okay.
changing of heart, which
It was
would
the
indicate a translation like
by the way.
retract
Oh,
or even repent, as some of the
I don't think
English
it was pushed in all
translations
the way.
have.
Or there's a short in the cable or something, I don't know. But when I messed with it, it went away.
hopefully it wasn't a short.
Okay. Again, this is just not just
I'm
poetry,
gonna
but
leave my
ordinary
credit
English
card
language.
here.
Words are multivalent. There's a range of
No,
meanings.
I'll just have Miranda order it for me. My daughter's here.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay. Yeah, it just depends on what time you want that.
Sure.
Pretty sure it's gonna be easier just to have them deliver it too.
Mhm.
I don't know what time they
Good.
open.
They do deliver.
Can you look up and see what?
Yeah,
time
I
they
mean,
open?
especially, I think the translation you're referring to would kind of combine the
Logged
two
in as
verbs
me, if you
into
think that
one
looks weird.
solidified meaning, in which case you could
I
say
logged in as me, so
retract.
that's probably why it looks
um,
funny too.
I was like, where's
and-
Google Chrome?
retract, or I
Alright.
mean retract, repent, very similar. Yes, yeah, that's a good way of saying it. But yeah, if you put both of the verbs together, you could be more creative
Here,
on
it's quicker.
that. So let's, so we kind of see the three statements. What does a statement mean? Kind of go with the in line respectively with
If
the
they're open
three
now, we could probably go ahead
options
and place
of
the
what-
order and-
what or who does Job reject or despise. These would be the following. So if Job despises himself, he would be wallowing back to the ash heap. If Job despises or kind of goes back on the repenting in dust and ashes, Job would show a change of heart, like we said,
What time is it?
kind of a revealed,
Well, can
having
you-
been
I'll leave
revealed
you
to
my
God's
credit card.
glory.
Can you just call and
But
order
then
it?
this last
Um,
troubling one, if Job rejects God, this would be the kind of mark of Job washing his hands finally of the divine bully that we see.
I just ordered me and my
I
two
think
kids
what you
three
said about the
BLTs.
last, can you
Oh,
tell
okay.
me your name? I'm sorry.
I don't know what they
Ron.
want, so I'm just ordering what I know they'll like.
Ron, okay, I think you had an
Um,
excellent
So do you
comment
want
on
me to order that at 10:30?
this final one. Can you say it again?
Just order them and tell them we need it at noon,
Okay, yeah.
and because that way they won't make it right away. And
Oh,
I don't want them to bring it out here and
yeah.
no one be there to pick it up.
Okay. Alright. I'll
'Cause
say I'll
we
get it
probably should tip the guy too. I have some cash to tip him because they won't let you add the tip onto the credit card,
Oh, I see.
so you have to pay him in cash. So,
Oh, okay. Okay.
which I think is a bad idea.
Yeah.
I
Their
think that's
website's
excellent.
cool. You can
Injecting
probably get
an image
online
of
and
God,
order.
especially a God who
Order everything.
I'll
inflicts
see.
suffering,
I'll
and this
check
was the
it out.
phrase
Laura-
that was so
Laura
troubling
wrote out
in chapter
everything
2,
that,
for no reason.
On
Yeah,
that notebook?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wanton, yes.
Brad, real quick,
Everyone ordered in like combo meals. That's why I was telling you mine is like not a combo meal. It's an actual number.
exactly.
Oh,
A quantity.
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's good to know.
That way my kids actually have food to eat.
That's a good
And that's
idea.
why I liked Ron's comment,
Okay,
is
I'll be
because Job had the
You can go
whole
ahead
time
and,
during the speeches has been
clean all this up,
rejecting
you know.
his friend's view of God
We'll just take care of
as
the 11
one
bucks
who
with Allison.
punishes the wicked
We'll,
and blesses the righteous. That's not in line with his
Faith in action.
experience of
Yeah, go
God.
ahead and start.
So that's why I think
downloading
Ron,
files.
what Ron said about this
That works.
option
Thanks.
is really interesting. All right, real quick, I want to see what you all would translate 42:6 as. Now, very experienced Job scholars. And remember that how you translate this verse says a lot about what you think about the whole book. We haven't even gotten to the epilogue yet. We know the ending, but this is the crucial verse of interpretation. How, Job scholars, how would you translate this? No right answer. Only your answer.
Yeah. Oh, what was her name?
What now?
Oh, you'll need to go up and get that laptop
No right answer.
out of the common room.
There is no right answer. I would love to hear, but everybody has a way that they view it, though. Does anyone want to throw an option of translation out there?
Yeah, because translators, you're not allowed to leave a blank verse.
Yeah.
You know, you get paid less if you do that.
Put in parentheses something really complicated.
Here, you can't do that.
Yes. Mhm. Mm. It's a very thoughtful translation and interpretation, especially given something Richard's been pushing a lot during the class of Job, having this experience of God, having a very changed life and outlook on the world, one that none of us would have. Maybe we'd have a little better idea because of Christ, but an experience that very unique to Job.
Maybe. I think some of them have seen the glory of God too. But I'm being playful. I mean, what I'm arguing is that he does see the glory of God from the whirlwind,
Mhm.
at least a glimpse of the glory of God. But that gets back to your good point. If he's disowning something, what is he disowning?